You've heard the word 1,000 times, right? Blockchain. It gets thrown around constantly, called a revolution. But what is it really? Well, today, we're going to cut right through all that buzz. We're getting to the core of what this technology is, how it actually works, and why, just maybe, it could change, well, everything. Let's get into it.
Okay, so to really get blockchain, we have to go way back. I'm talking 7,000 years back, to its ancestor, the ledger. Just think about it for a second. From ancient Mesopotamia to modern accounting, we have always needed a way to keep track of who owns what. This simple idea, a book of records, is fundamental to how our entire civilization works.
And that simple idea, of course, has evolved a lot. We started with clay tablets, then moved to pen and ink, and then in the 1970s, we got digital databases. Each one of these steps made keeping records faster and way more efficient. So the big question now is blockchain the next logical leap in this very, very long history?
To figure that out, here's what we've got lined up. We'll start with that 7,000-year-old ledger, then get into what a blockchain actually is. After that, we'll look at how it's being used for things like smart contracts, do a little hype versus reality check, and finally, take a peek at the road ahead.
All right, so what is a blockchain? At its heart, it's really just the next version of that ledger we were talking about, a version built for our digital world, but with some pretty incredible new features baked in. The actual definition is surprisingly straightforward. It's a digital record book for tracking ownership. Every transaction is a block. Then each new block gets mathematically locked to the one before it, which forms a chain. See? Block, chain. It's that simple structure that makes it so incredibly secure and transparent.
But here's a really key distinction. Not all blockchains are the same. On one hand, you have public or permissionless ones like Bitcoin, where literally anyone can join. On the other hand, you have private, permissioned blockchains. Access is controlled, everybody knows who's in the network, and this is where big businesses are getting seriously interested.
And you can see why. For a business, the benefits are huge. Everyone on the network shares the exact same ledger. That creates a single source of truth. It's insanely secure, and you can't go back and secretly change the records. But maybe the most exciting part is its intelligence, this ability to automate agreements.
And that idea of an intelligent network, well, that's where the theory gets very, very real. It takes us from abstract code to practical applications that could fundamentally change the way we all do business. So that intelligent feature makes something called a smart contract possible. The best way to think about it is like a digital vending machine. It's a piece of code that lives on the blockchain, and it automatically carries out an agreement when the conditions are met. No middleman, no waiting, no, let me check with my manager. It's a contract that enforces itself. Let's put this into action with a real-world problem, sending money overseas. Right now, if you've ever done it, you know it's slow, it's confusing, and man, is it expensive. You often have no idea where your money is, and the fees can be just shocking. And here's why. The system we have now is this tangled web of banks talking to other banks. Your bank has to talk to a correspondent bank, which then talks to another one, and so on and so on. Every single step adds time, it adds cost, it adds complexity, and that's why it can take 3, 4, even 5 days for the money to finally show up. Now, look at the blockchain way. It's 2 steps. That's it. Because both banks are on the same trusted, shared network, they can deal directly with each other. The payment settles almost instantly. It just completely bypasses that whole complicated, slow chain of command. The difference is just massive. And the cost savings? They're staggering. For smaller payments, the fees in the old system can chew up as much as 10% of the money you're trying to send. With blockchain, that cost drops to almost nothing. This isn't just a little improvement. It's a total game changer for cost and for the customer.
So I know what you're thinking. This all sounds amazing, almost too good to be true. And that's why it's time for a reality check. Is blockchain really going to change the world, or is it just a really complicated, overhyped database? This quote from Gideon Greenspan, a database expert, sums up the skeptical view perfectly. His point is, for most things we do today, traditional databases are fast, they're mature, and they've been optimized for decades. Why on earth would you reinvent the wheel if the one you have works just fine?
But then, there's the other side of the coin, the long view. Bill Gates said this back in 1995, and it's so true. New technologies, they often seem kind of clunky and pointless at first. We get all wrapped up in the short-term hype, but we totally miss the huge, deep changes they can bring over 10 years.
And that brings us to the road ahead. Because the real key to understanding blockchain's potential, its future value, is to stop thinking of it as just a better database and start thinking of it as a new kind of network. And that means we have to talk about the network effect. It's a super important concept. It's just the simple idea that some things get more valuable the more people use them. You know, a telephone is pretty useless if you're the only person who has one, but it becomes incredibly valuable when everyone has one. And here's the cool part. Not all networks grow the same way. A simple broadcast network, like a TV station, its value grows in a straight line, proportional to its number of viewers. A communications network, like Skype, is way more valuable. Its value grows with the square of its users. But a network that lets people form their own groups, like Facebook, its value can grow exponentially. And because blockchain allows countless different groups and applications to be built on top of it, its value could follow that same explosive, exponential path. And the scale of what we're talking about here is just mind-boggling. Just look at the US payment system alone. We're talking 600 million transactions worth over $12 trillion every single day. That's the size of the financial plumbing that banks and regulators are thinking about using this technology for. But you know, at the end of the day, the tech is only part of the story. The biggest hurdles, the biggest roadblocks to this stuff going mainstream, they're not technical, they're human. How do we regulate it? How do you get huge competing companies to agree on a single set of rules for a shared network? These are the really tough questions we still need to answer. Which leaves us with a big question, right? Is blockchain just a clever solution looking for a problem to solve? Or is it the foundation for the next decade of innovation? Maybe even the next internet? You know, maybe the real answer is that all truly foundational technologies start out looking that way. Just like the early internet, its true power might not be in replacing what we already do, but in creating things we can't even imagine yet. One thing's for sure, the story of this 7,000-year-old ledger is a long, long way from being over.